Good morning. Welcome to NCFCA Summit 2019. I'm Amy Joy Tofty, NCFCA Director of Education, and we are recording live from the University of Northwestern in St. Paul, Minnesota. NCFCA is passionate about equipping students with the necessary skills to engage culture and communicate truth. Thank you for joining us for Launching Clubs and Classes. Clubs and classes invite students into a collaborative learning adventure. And in this panel discussion, we'll discuss effective strategies for assessing interest, building a team, creating a plan, fostering community, nurturing leadership, and awarding credits. Throughout the session, you are welcome to ask questions by clicking on the button at the bottom of your screen. We'll answer those questions during our live Q&A session. If you need technical support, please email summittech@ncfca.org. And stay tuned for our fantastic giveaways, which include NCFCA sticky notes, an NCFCA coffee tumbler, and an ebook of speech games and icebreakers from our friends at Lasting Impact. Joining me today are NCFCA Club Leader from Region 6, Hillary Kolsak, and NCFCA Club Leader from Region 2, Jennifer Sefcik.
Hi.
Thank you both for joining me this morning.
Thank you.
Yeah, glad to be here.
Yeah.
So excited to chat. I know that both of you have started multiple clubs. So let's just start by telling our audience, how did you create interest and sell your vision to the folks in your area? Jennifer, do you want to start us out there?
Yeah, sure. We started when we moved up into a new town where we really didn't know anyone. So the first place we went was to communication with homeschool families in the area and just telling them what we were doing. So I think that was kind of the low-hanging fruit of people that were already interested.
Right.
Had to sell the vision at an event. And then furthermore, with other clubs, it just, within your sphere of influence, it's letting people see what you do, selling the vision to like-minded people is what we're doing. And you can usually get there pretty quickly through engaging, someone in conversation and discussing where our culture's going and how we can be a part of making a difference in the world.
That's great. Hillary, any thoughts to add on that?
Yes, definitely. We actually have a private Christian school in our area that was really interested in starting speech and debate. So I find that students are oftentimes the best advertisers for speech and debate.
Indeed.
So we gathered a little team of students who are passionate about their speech. We brought them to the school, and they were able to present in different classrooms. We did arrange it with the school, but we were able to present to the students who got so excited about it, because until you see it, sometimes you don't understand. You hear speech and debate and you don't understand what it's all about. So that was great. And then we had a question and answer time with the students, and we had our students that we brought, we were able to answer questions for the students. So rather than me telling, just sitting up in front and telling them what it was about, they got to see it in action, and then they actually got to talk to the students. So it really generated a lot of interest. Another place that I've reached out to is just my homeschool support group. Same kind of idea where I've said, show you speeches, this is what it's about. And I actually taught a class at my homeschool support group this year so that I could introduce this group of students who probably wouldn't know about it otherwise to the activity. And this class I did last year with them generated a lot of interest. And so now I have students that are so excited they want to compete this year. So those are some of the things that I did last year.
Great. So I hear you saying that your students are a big part of that. I know for me, I had somebody who invited me to come to a tournament for 3 years before I finally went. And yes, once you see what it's all about, it makes you want to get involved for sure. So what are some of the common objections to speech and debate that you hear as you're trying to generate that interest?
Well, I think we probably all get a lot of the same ones. It's pretty common for homeschool parents to feel overwhelmed, that they're too busy, they have a lot of things on their plate. But that really just goes back to selling that vision and helping them understand the common denominator that we really have to address, which is the culture wars in our society. And really, the social and moral revolutionaries have the battering rams against our values right now, and they're trying to tear it down. And if you have your eyes half open, you can see what's going on every single day. And so I think we have to just really approach it from what do you value and how do you want to prepare your children and your students to be able to not just wilt when they get out there and they engage and encounter hostility towards their faith and their values and what they believe. And, it takes a lot of practice, really a lot of practice, and a safe place and an environment so that, they can get out there and not just be afraid of what's coming at them. And of course, I think that the other thing is, you really can kind of take any objection and turn it into a positive. A lot of people are afraid of commitment. We see that in our community today, all around us. People are not getting married as, much. They're afraid to have children, afraid of, they're just afraid of commitment. But I think, isn't that a good thing to learn, be in a place where commitment can be learned through a partnership, through being committed to a club. And it's a great way to develop the skills that we want our young people to have, and us as well, of course. Another common one is with parents of saying, I don't know if they want to do this. I mean, if we were all to raise our hands right now, how many of our kids really wanted to do this? I don't know what the statistics are, but if I were guessing, I would say, 85% don't want to do this? That's just what I've observed over the years is we don't naturally run towards hard things. There may be a few people who do, but we typically follow the path of least resistance. And so, and especially for people that are shyer. So when I have someone say, well, I don't think my student really want to do this. They're shy. My response is, well, really? So was I. And I was forced to do debate when I was in high school. And I am so grateful that I didn't get left in my shy place, because I think if you ask most people, are you happy to be shy? They don't see it as a super great asset in life. It's something that's to be more of a hindrance. And so being able to be in a place where they can come out of that shell, have the confidence is a great opportunity that's kind of rare. And then you have people that are more extroverts, and of course they just need to be tamed. So we can do that too. So, again, it goes back to that equipping, and again, there's so many objections, but if we just respond appropriately and listen and say, I can understand how you feel about that. I felt the same way, or I know a family who felt the same way, but yet here's a process through which you can see how we can move through that. And then you can just ask up front, what would be your objections or hesitations about participating in this activity, and just be direct. Don't beat around the bush and try to figure it out. Just ask them up front.
That's good. Hillary, any thoughts that you'd like to add?
The biggest objection I've actually heard from people is, I just can't give up a half a day or whatever, the club time. That really is the biggest thing. And I think to answer that objection, one of the things is to create a shift in the thinking about speech and debate. That's not just an extracurricular. It's not just another thing we're going to add on to a super busy schedule, because it does.
Right.
It does. We know that. Those of us who've been in it, we know that there's a commitment level, like Jennifer was talking about, and it does take time. So what I try to talk to people is, like, don't look at it as just an add-on activity, but look at something that's really core to your homeschool curriculum. You're going to be learning research skills, writing skills, and communication skills, which can all, and I know we're going to talk about that a little bit later about putting on a transcript, but you can actually, it's a kind of a shift from thinking just an add-on to, this is something it's actually a bigger subject. And so that when people shift their thinking about it, sometimes they go, oh, okay, I didn't realize that you could actually learn all these skills through the activity, when I'm, talking to people who are new to it.
I know for me, one of the biggest limiting factors was I'm a mom of 6 children. So of course it was our oldest that wanted to get involved in this. And meanwhile, I still had an infant. So we are going to have another session. And I just wanted to let our audience know that is called Getting the Most Out of Tournaments. And that is on Friday at 10 a.m. And it's really addressing that idea of how do we involve the whole family in this activity. I love that 2 years ago, my youngest son, for Christmas, he's making his wish list, and what he wanted was a suit so that he could give a speech like his oldest brother. So I just love that it's kind of that waterfall effect. As you're involving your older kids, your younger kids just naturally come along with it, and they're hearing those activities, they're being exposed to them. And so I love the idea of saying, how can we involve the whole family so that you're not just taking that half a day away from what otherwise seems like education. So that's a great thing. And we also will talk about different types of clubs. Just the idea of some clubs are a half a day club. Some clubs meet only 2 hours a week. So being able to look at the needs of your families. Let's talk about starting a brand new club. Obviously, as one person, you can't do everything. So how did you go about building a team of leaders that could help you in that process?
Jennifer, do you want to start?
I'll let you start.
I've got a couple situations. I came into a club that was already ever ready. It's probably, we're going on 12 years now. So when I started, it was already an established club. My two that I did this past year, with the co-op and then with the private Christian school, it was really just so important to find. Well, number one, parents. I think parents are key, and to find parents that are like-minded, that are excited about the activity, and also kind of have the same the same vision, in that we're really, it's not just about competition, it's about equipping students with the skills so that they can then take these skills and engage with the culture that, like Jennifer was talking about. So it's more than just, we're just you're just going to go to tournaments and you're going to compete. But so finding like-minded parents, kind of when you cast that vision, you get a sense from talking to people that, oh, okay, they understand that vision. That's the kind of person I think that you want to have as a leader with you. And like Amy Jo, like you said, you can't do it all. You just can't. Don't even try, because you'll burn out. So you really need to have someone come alongside you. My established club, I have 2 co-leaders with me and we really we're on the same page. We really want to equip these students. We have a heart to, again, we're doing it for the Lord ultimately. And so having that core group with the same vision is super, super important, I think. So talking about the vision and identifying people who are willing to come on with that vision is probably just the most important, because if you don't agree on the foundation, why you're doing this, I think that can be a setup for some conflict later as you walk down the road.
Yeah, thanks for that, Hillary. Jennifer, what are your thoughts on that?
On building a team, I think, you become family when you spend a lot of time together and you are like-minded. You share the same goals and visions for your children. And so it really is the body of Christ working at its best, just like we see when homeschool parents come together for tournaments. So you're just duplicating that in a club structure. And when people can work in their giftings, you can say, what are you good at? And can you help with administration? Do you have the gift of helps? Can you help with the setup and the building? And, there's a saying that says people support that which they help to create.
Yes.
So when we can, let everyone give what they're good at, that's wonderful. And that builds that team spirit. And then, of course, we're all in the process of developing new skills as well. And so this activity is not just for students to learn communication.
Yeah.
We're all learning and still growing together in our communication skills. So again, we're moving towards all becoming better at this activity together in a like-minded community, which is a joy to be a part of.
I love what you said about we're all learning together. So I have a math and science background, and the thought of teaching speech and debate was very intimidating to me. So talk to that parent who would say, yeah, but I have never done this before. How can I help my children, or how can I help in a club if I don't know these skills? How did you learn along the way and teach yourself so that you could help your clubs?
That's a great question. When I came in, I was a little intimidated. It was walking into a brand new world, new vocabulary, all these new people. Everybody seemed to be like, know what was going on. And I was like, I'm not really sure what's happening here. So I kind of started out small, and I sat and I listened, and I realized as I started really loving this activity, I just tried to soak up all that I could. So I went to summer camp, and I sat and I took notes, and I sat in class and I took notes. And as I was more exposed, and then of course going to tournaments, I learned probably the most going to tournaments and seeing what actually happens in competition. So that was a wonderful way for me to get involved. One of the things we do in club too, so it's not, we don't, like new parents, we don't say you're going to get up and teach, because I think that would frighten people off. But we do require all the parents to be involved in some way. So we have a volunteer form, and you just put your preference 1 through 4 of where you'd like to serve. So maybe you'd like to serve in hospitality to start. Maybe you want to help with just if we have presentation days and being in charge of that schedule. So we have jobs that are big and jobs that are small. And oftentimes it's a great way to introduce new parents to club, like help with the snack, because we need somebody to do that. So that's a great way to get people involved, and they're serving, but they're not scared to death that you're going to throw them in front of the debate. You've got to teach about 4-point refutation.
That's great. That's great. Yes. And as we learn, we can learn right alongside of our students. I always tell my new parents, you just have to be 1 week ahead of your kids. You don't have to have a degree. You just read 1 chapter ahead, and you're ready to discuss that with them when they read that. So let's talk about different aspects of club structures. So if we were to interview club leaders across the country, we would probably find hundreds of different variations on a theme. But what are some of those club structures that a new club has to put in place in order to be successful?
I would say that, first of all, you want to have clear expectations, standards, a good solid orientation starting out, making sure that everybody has a copy of the handbook, they know what's in it. We have a code of conduct for our club too that we go over. We make sure everybody's on the same page with that. So setting those expectations early are very important. And then as far as this, you want me to cover structure, club structure?
Yep.
Okay.
That'd be great.
All right. We've done different things over the years, and I think the structure that we found that we really like the best as far as kind of schedule is setting it up where we have late afternoon speech, and then we have a break for dinner. So a lot of times the moms come in the afternoon with the younger kids for juniors and can participate in speech. Then we come together for a meal for 30 minutes. And then, and that is nice because it's kind of the turnover where dads show up. And so there can be family and time together, visiting, socializing, and then the dads kind of move on into the debate evening. And so
Hillary, I'm going to shift to you while we wait for Jennifer to come back. Talk to me about what clubs. Oh, are you back, Jennifer? We lost you for just a second.
Okay.
So I heard up to the point where you were saying that dads come. Talk to me about the other part after that.
The structure of the club. Yes. So, and then dads participate, in the evening activities. We've encouraged that. So again, we talked about being a family affair, an event that we can all do together. And so it does involve it as much as possible. We hope to create that in our club structure. Excellent.
Hillary, what do your clubs look like? I know you've been a part of a couple different clubs.
Yes. The Ever Ready Speech and Debate Club that I run, we meet on Thursday afternoons, and we go from 1 o'clock in the afternoon to 5:15 in the evening. So we do 1 to 2:15. We have speech. Then we have a break where we kind of fellowship and hospitality, and 2:30 to 3:30 we do apologetics, and then from 3:30 to 5:15 we offer debate. Team policy and Lincoln Douglas debate. And we've had that scheduled for a number of years at club. one of the things that we really love all of our students to attend the apologetics section of club. And our apologetics is a little bit different with that club, is that we're not just training for apologetic speaking, but we consider it the heartbeat of our club, because we're training the students to take what they're learning in speech and in debate and then engage with the culture. So that's kind of the heart of our club, really, because the whole reason we're doing this is so that we can engage others for Christ and his kingdom. So we've made that kind of the center of our club. And so we encourage all students, whether, if some of them just come for speech, but we say stay for apologetics. And our older students who maybe come for only debate, we actually come for apologetics, because it really, like I said, is the heartbeat. The other club that I did at the Christian school, we had very limited time. We had time after school. So we had an hour of speech and an hour of debate. And that one, that was short. There wasn't a lot of time to get a lot in. So we really, I had a lot of new students. So one of the things was just really covering the basics with them. Part of what I did with that is it really a totally different scenario, because very new students, they hadn't been exposed to this. So my goal was to get them, number one, not be afraid to get up in front of the class and speak. Number two, how do you actually structure a good speech? And how do you step outside of yourself so that you can deliver in front of a room full of people, so you can speak to them. And also, how do you, we talked about interrupts and things like that. They were so new that we didn't go a lot into the some of the limited prep categories, because I knew that would totally overwhelm them. So it was a good starting point for them, though. So we required them actually to write speeches, and we had a little mini tournament for them, an in-house tournament, so that they could practice and be prepared for that. So there's so many different things you can do. And I think part of what club looks like depends on the students you have.
Yes.
Very much so. If you have a lot of advanced students and a few novices, it's going to look different than I have a whole new group of students coming in. And what does that look like for the different expertise levels in this activity?
And I think that goes back to what we talked about earlier. You have to assess the needs of the families that you're serving. If there are aspects of speech and debate that are being met in another format, then you don't need to spend club time on those things. It kind of depends on the students that you have in front of you. I know some clubs alternate every other week. They do speech one week, debate another week. So really looking at what are the needs of the particular people that I'm serving, and then just walking in freedom in that it doesn't have to look just like somebody else's club, but also talking to people and finding out, how do you do this? How does this work for you? Tell me a little bit about fees. Do you charge for your clubs? And if so, why do you do that?
We do charge for club. I try to keep the fees low, because I know there's other costs associated with the activity. Fees basically cover things in our club. We pay a rental fee to our facility. There's an insurance. We have a group insurance for our club that I need to pay. When I have guest speakers come in, I like to give them a gift for their time. So I suppose fees is determined by how much you have to put out in terms of as a club leader. And we charge different fees for, like, if you only do speech and apologetics, it's a little bit less than if you do speech, apologetics, and debate. So we structure it depending on what parts of club you're going to be in. And when I have large families, I do offer sibling discount, because I know it can get, if you have, like, I have a family.
We thank you.
Right. I think they have like 7 kids in club this year. So I gave them a discount. I'm like, oh my goodness, it'd be just over. That's a lot if you have a lot of kids. Amy Joy.
I do. Very good. Jennifer, do you have any other thoughts on fees?
Yes, I think for what we've done most recently is we just did a family fee. So it's not per student. So it's like $50 in the fall, $50 in the spring. And that covers the cost for the insurance policy and incidentals, materials fee. And then as far as the cost of the facility, we just let families give a gift to the church and just make their checks directly out to the church. So they can get the tax deduction for that. And we have a suggested amount that we like for people to do, so that we can give a certain amount to the church in the fall and the spring.
Okay, great. We've talked about fees and expectations and schedules. Tell me a little bit about participation. How do you ask your families to participate in the club?
Well, I think we covered a little bit of that earlier as far as, assigning jobs and letting families get involved as far as their giftings and then training them for new jobs as well. Because we always have to be mindful that we want to pass this on to the families that come behind us. Like we were saying earlier, we can't do it forever. We can't do all the jobs. So we have to hold that loosely and let more people be involved to support the process. So I think when you can create that vision of where the family's going, then they can see this as more of a long-term commitment. So not just, oh, I'm just in this for 1 year at a time, but they can see it as a journey and a process. And we talk about the layering. Every year it's a new layer of skill that's developed, and you're just building upon that each and every year. What we recommend is students coming in at 12 and 13 start with speech only, and then at 14, enter into the debate realm, unless they're an exceptional younger student, which happens sometimes. And then because that really does kind of fit with more of that classical model of the logic skills, coming into play, 14, 15, 16. And then, and it fits well with team policy because they're more concrete thinkers, more evidence based in their thinking, and can get their hands on it a little bit more. And then I think, again, the classical model supports older students doing Lincoln Douglas because they have the rhetoric skills that are more in place for that.
That's great. Thanks. Hillary, what do you think about that? Do you require your parents to come? Do you have an attendance policy for your affiliate? What does that look like in your club?
We actually do require parents to attend with their students. We found that there's the most success when parents come alongside and they're helping their students. They're learning about the activity, and they're able to take what they're learning at club then and continue that at home. So we do require. When we send out a registration form, we have a parent commitment section where the parent says, "Yes, I understand this is not a drop-off activity. This is something that I'm going to be involved in." And so I think that creates upfront, the expectation is for the parent to be there. And honestly, we can't run club without the parents. We have a little bit, our club's a little on the larger side. And when we try to do practice debates or speech presentation days, we need all hands on deck. So if we just, if it was a drop-off activity, we wouldn't be able, the kids wouldn't have people listening to their speeches. So we try to get parents involved in that way. We kind of follow the guidelines for NCFCA that at age 12, you can start competing in debate as well. We do require, if you're a new debate student, you must attend speech because we don't have enough time in debate to teach the speech skills too. And they really do dovetail so beautifully together. So all the presentation skills and everything that you're learning in speech, you then come and you're bringing into debate. For Lincoln Douglas, I do require, I've been the Lincoln Douglas coach for a number of years at club, and I do require all Lincoln Douglas students to have at least a year of policy under their belt, because I just find that because of policy is a team policy, more concrete form of debate, it helps them so much. And then transitioning to Lincoln Douglas, which often is more abstract. And like I said about the apologetics, again, like that is the heartbeat of EverReady. So we really do want everybody to be in our apologetics, where you're learning about like lifestyle, Christianity and evangelism. So we're learning worldview. We're learning how do you share your faith, and we practice, those kind of things. And it's wonderful if you're going to compete in apologetics, because you can certainly take that and on a card, but you're also learning, I'm learning how to speak, I'm learning how to reason, and I'm now learning in apologetics how to take that and share my faith with.
I love that. Now, I'm sure that because we're all Christians, we never have any conflict. But just in case, Jennifer, talk to me about how do you handle conflict within your club?
Oh, there's a scripture that says, "Why are you surprised when there are fiery trials among you?" We shouldn't be surprised. This is an activity that is contentious. Debate, we're teaching people to express their ideas, to have opposing ideas. And so if there are people involved, there will be conflict, and we shouldn't be surprised at that. So I think the best thing is to get out ahead of it, and lay down the areas where there can be potential conflict. And I think a lot of that is through your orientation with your students and your parents, and just reminding us that, we're all sinners, and we're not going to agree on everything. There can be issues that bring conflict. There can be debate that brings conflict. There can be just different opinions on how to do things. And so obviously there's no one right or wrong way on some things. And so that's where you have to have a club leader, essentially, that's the sheriff, that says, the buck stops here. Hopefully we can, work through, if there's a higher level of conflict, we certainly want to always model Matthew 18, to go to that person who has offended us, and make it known. Handling things sooner rather than later is always better. And having parties that can give wise counsel and to discuss things. But I think really just kind of addressing it up front, of saying, guys, we're going to have areas where we don't agree. We're going to have debates where you guys get hot and you're not happy with each other. So let's learn how to kind of address that in round after round when we're practicing, which can carry over into tournament atmosphere as well, to say, was there something that we said or did that, you want to talk about a little bit more, or bringing it forth and say, I didn't understand what you said about this or that. Can you clarify that for me a little bit? Or I thought it said, help me understand, and I think always having that spirit of humility and whatever we do, to say, help me understand your point of view here. I didn't quite get that, and so there will be conflict, but that's life. And where better can we help our students learn how to work through conflict by modeling conflict resolution? There is the Peacemaker's Pledge we hope to follow, certainly, and we have some guidelines for that. We should avail ourselves to those resources. But yeah, it's going to happen. But hopefully, we can glorify God through all of that as well, and learn how to be better peacemakers and, resolve conflict.
Wise words, my friend, wise words. Hillary, talk to us about homework. Do you assign homework in your club?
We do for yes and no. We do for debate, for sure. Speech, we kind of, for new students, we usually have in the beginning of the year, like assignments so we can get to know you. So you're actually doing a little, autobiography speech on yourself, where you're bringing in a box of items and telling about yourself, things like that are really approachable for a new student. For speeches, we lay out the schedule ahead of time and let the students know when presentation days are. And so we don't require a student to give a speech at a presentation day, but everybody's of course encouraged to do so. So debate is a different story though, because debate, speech, oftentimes you're just doing a speech by yourself. Debate it's really more, you've got to look at it as like a team of students that you're working with. So right off the bat, for the resolution this year, I will assign to students, we'll study the resolution. So we'll look at some of the different topics, and I will actually have them group presentations on how, about the Lincoln Douglas topic. And we do the same thing for policy with research. And so the students are required to do some research and then to present. And so that with debate, it's really important that students carry their load in what they're assigned to do. And I think what Jennifer said, setting expectations up front is so important. It's so much easier to say, this is what's expected of you. This is what we're going to be doing this year, rather than it kind of being fuzzy and people not knowing, because then it's so much easier to address. Like, you agreed that this is, we talked about this is what we're doing. And then the expectation is up front, so that it's easier people aren't wondering, oh, is I supposed to do something? Was I supposed to hand something in? And I think, again, the expectation on different like for novice students, you probably can't expect 3 briefs from them a week. It's just because they don't even know how to write one. So it's important to the expectations to match the level of the student. Because I think if you were to throw out an assignment like that to a brand new student, I think they run screaming, because I don't even know how to do this. So it really depends on the level of where the students are that you have in your club. So
How do you communicate those assignments? Do you send out a weekly email? Do you have them all listed ahead of time? What does that look like?
With debate, I usually, because we'll meet every week, and I will tell them this is what I want, this is what it's going to look like, and then I always send out a follow-up email. So just in case you didn't hear me, or you weren't listening, or you were doodling instead of taking notes, here's what the expectation for the next week is. I think multiple forms of communication are really important, and just don't assume that just because you say something to somebody, they hear it. So the follow-up is, I think, really, really important. And I also like to communicate with the parents as well. Keep them in on the loop, because they may not sit in that they may not be there. And so then they're surprised because they didn't realize, oh, my student was supposed to be working on that. So I think having the parents know what is expected of the students helps a lot as well.
Very good. Any additional thoughts, Jennifer, on homework?
I would, in speech, you have to be pretty methodical every week with what you're teaching. And so reinforcing the skill that was learned. I always have a handout for the week. And at the end of it, I have the printed homework, that they're expecting for the next week. And then again, just like Hillary said, follow up with that email. In debate, of course, you have positive peer pressure with, you can put research pods together. You can put a more advanced team with a novice team with an intermediate team. So they're working on things together and they're accountable to one another. And so again, you want to build upon the opportunity for positive peer pressure in the group setting too.
I love that. You talked at the beginning, Hillary, about making this not just an extracurricular activity, but actually more the core of what we're doing in education. So talk to me about high school credits. What types of credits could a student earn by doing speech and debate?
Mm-hmm. That's a very good question. We actually, three of my four boys have competed in speech and debate, and we have put it on their college transcript. And we have considered, I just pulled up my son Logan, who's a sophomore in college now, to look at what we put on his transcript. We gave him 2 full years of speech and debate credit as a full year credit. He certainly, it depends. I mean, obviously, and Jennifer and I talked about this, it depends on a student. If you have a student who's not putting a lot forward, they're not working really hard and all that, I don't think you can fully consider it a class. But if you have a student who's very motivated, who's doing the research in debate, who's writing the speeches and practicing the speeches and working, certainly you can consider it a full year credit. And there's so many ways of doing that. We just listed it as, I think, as speech and debate and then advanced speech and debate on his transcript. But if a student is really getting into, for example, the energy policy this year, you can fully count. I mean, if your student is really doing the research and they're spending the time and they are writing briefs and they are really thinking about this topic, it becomes a full topic for them for the year. And so you can, depending on how you word it, but you could say, what would you put for energy? I mean, you could say energy studies if you had to. They're going to learn probably more through speech and debate than they might if they were to do a class, because they're digging into it. They're doing the research. So certainly award your students credit. One of the things we also did is as our students competed and earned things at tournaments, we did list that on not everything, obviously, but on the transcript as well. So when it goes to coaches, they can see, oh, okay, they gave them a credit, and now I see here, yes, they got this place at a national tournament or whatever. So we did list that also under the accomplishments on the transcript.
And I know that NCFCA keeps a transcript of those awards that students have won over the course of their high school years. So that was very helpful to us as we were looking at college. Well, I want to move a little bit into engaging the family and creating community. There's an old African proverb that says, if you want to go quickly, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. So let's talk about how you build community within your club. Jennifer, do you want to start out with that?
I think it just happens organically. But I guess, there have to be some intentional things too. But when you are doing life with like-minded people, I mean, it's intentional. And community is built through this process of seeing each other every week, doing important things. I mean, if we were just getting together and doing, craft projects, I'm sure we'd build some community. But doing this activity that's so centered around our faith, that's centered around equipping, that, is designed to really, my husband always says, we're developing warriors in the culture. So there's a sense of urgency about what we're doing and how important it really is. And I think it's important as a club leader to set that tone, certainly every week, to make sure that I always kind of think of myself as like the hostess of the party, each week for club, right? I want everyone to feel welcome, happy that they're there, call people by name, engage our best self, and be all there, when we're in our community each week, to love those people, to care about them, at club, but outside of club too. What's going on in your life? How can we pray together? And it just happens, is what I found. And so, the other thing is socials. What we did, we have a big barn. Okay. And so in the winter, it's too cold and too many kids to get together inside someone's house. We did ultimate Frisbee, in our big barn, and created community and had fun. We'd come in for hot chocolate afterwards. Everybody bring a snack. So, just socializing outside of club is nice too. It'll happen spontaneously, of course, with some kids and friendships developing, but we can certainly add to that by having opportunities for parents to get together and to visit. Because, at club, there's not a lot of time to just socialize and visit, because we're the next thing. We got to focus on what we're doing. So creating opportunities outside of club as well is a really nice thing to do, to build that esprit de corps and the commonalities and the bonding and learning about one another's lives and what we do in addition to this activity.
Hillary, you have two different contrasting clubs. So you have a club that meets at a school, and those students are in school together, and you have a club that is based mostly of homeschoolers or home educators. So how is that different? How do you create community differently depending on the paradigm that you're in?
That one is with the Christian school, the students they know each other and they're together all day long at school, and so that has its advantages and of course its disadvantages, because they're already coming in with, at the end of the day, they may have had some conflict with somebody in the school. So so that actually looks a lot different than our club that meets on Thursdays, where people are coming. We come from a pretty big geographical area, so getting together outside of club oftentimes can be hard. But what we've tried to do is do a lot of things at club. We offer prayer every week before club. So we say, let's all pray together. We have 15 minutes before club starts, and anybody, and people come and they, especially moms, if they have burdens, and we're able to share life through prayer and pray for our students in club as well. And then we do also have like a potluck in the fall, where it's just, everybody brings something and we're going to play games and we're going to get to know each other. And we try to do events at club, knowing that it's hard just where we're all like spread out all over the Chicago area. So when we can get together at club and do things that are just that we get to know each other better, I think that really is community. I think also one of the things that's important to do is, as new families come in, we didn't do this last year, we did the year before, we signed what we call chums. They're buddies, basically. So a buddy family is a great way to start building community. And for a new family to come in and go, oh, here's somebody who kind of knows what's going on. They'll take me under their wing and help me, because me as the leader, it's hard for me to talk to everybody. But if I can assign a family to a new family or a new student, it goes a long way. So
great. How do you raise up the next generation of club leaders? So Jennifer, you mentioned we're not going to be around forever. There are people coming behind us. So how are you intentionally raising up your next generation of leaders?
Sometimes there's certainly a standout of someone that you think, they get this. They seem to have the bandwidth to put in some extra time. If there's a dad or mom that, has a little bit more flexibility in their schedule. I remember with our club up here, I kind of identified someone that I thought, this would be a good successor. And we actually told him that kind of early in, like, you're the one that we're going to hand the baton to, when our number's up. So, being intentional about that is important, and just people get committed, and you can see those leadership skills. Also, I think it's important to draw those people into the decision-making process. So when something important is going on, they can understand the process that you went through to make a certain decision, who you involve, who is giving you wise counsel that you go to. And then you just learn who those people are that have that wisdom, that discernment, and that ability to lead going forward.
That's great. What do you think about that, Hillary?
I totally agree with Jennifer. I think identifying people, because you will see people kind of go, oh, I love this and I want to continue and learn and all of that. One other thing that I like to do is the student leaders. I love seeing the students as they're growing up in the activity, and when they're juniors and seniors, handing over some responsibility in club to them. I want you to teach about character development for interps, or I want, and let them take on some leadership roles, because I found that sometimes if you let them do that, when they graduate, they're still willing to come back and help you. They felt like they're a part of club, they're integral to the club, and they then have a heart to come and serve club. So actually, I had a student leader who's been serving in club. She's just wonderful for the past 4 years after she graduated from the league. Now she's moving on because she has a full-time job. And she's going to be traveling, but it was a wonderful, wonderful thing to have her as she stepped up to leadership in club, and then she continued on afterwards. So never overlook the fact that you have students who you can train up to be leaders and who want to serve still after they're graduated.
Yes.
I would like that. Do you have any opportunities to do club outreach, so activities outside the club to the community?
We actually, our apologetics leader, Elaine Demoulas, she has such a heart for sharing the gospel, and for for us not just being this little cloister club where we're just working on things and going to tournaments. So she has been doing this for years, and it's such a blessing. Actually, she identifies places that we can go. This year it was a rehab center. And we would go about once a month and take a group of students, and the students get to share their speeches. They get to talk to the people at the rehab center. They've also, we sing songs for them and stuff. And honestly, I know the people in the rehab center have been blessed by the club, but I think the real blessing is on those who serve, because you realize this is the impact that our students can have in a broader community, and that they can take this. My son Nathaniel had a speech on cathedrals, and he took that speech in, and he started out, I think, with a Bible verse, and there was somebody in the back of the room who was quoting the Bible verse with him, and it was just. So I think it's really important. And obviously, if you're just starting a club, you're probably not thinking, of places I'm going to go out and now I'm going to, take a team with me out into the community. But it's something to think about, that we have we're equipping students, we're giving them all these skills, and I'd love to see them reach a broader community and truly bless people, and especially that rehab center. I don't think they get many visitors. They're kind of lonely, and what a joy to have this group of young people come in smiling and and ready to give them a speech, and probably the highlight of their week, really, to have their team come in. So there's so many ideas like that. You can, and if you think about, as a club, you're the body of Christ, and you're all coming together. So we've done various things like collecting items for a homeless shelter, or things like that too. So you can think about ways of serving as a club, that you can really reach out to a broad community and bless so many people.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Well, ladies, we're going to give away some great, fantastic gifts here. So first, we have some NCFCA sticky notes, and the winner of those sticky notes is Nicole at NCloudKitty82. Next, we have an NCFCA coffee tumbler, and the winner of that is Kathy at Kathy Spanish. And lastly, we have a free ebook or workshop from our friends at Lasting Impact, and the winner is Sandy Henkel. So congratulations to our giveaway winners, and to claim your prizes, please email summittech@ncfca.org and we will connect you with our sponsors. So for the rest of our time together, we're going to answer some of the questions that our listeners have asked. We're going to start first with, just to let you know that we do have a Launching Clubs and Classes resource. So if you are brand new and you are saying, wow, I'd really like to start a club in my area, you are welcome to contact me. My email address is amyjoytofty@ncfca.org, and I would be happy to get you connected with that. You can also refer to the resource Launching Clubs and Classes on our website, and that will give you some sort of guideline and checklists and things to consider as you start a new club. So what kind of wisdom can you ladies share on getting a club vision balance? So balancing those families who desire more commitment and more community to those families where, really this is just an added on activity for them. How do you balance that vision?
I think we hold our standard high regardless, to say this is an opportunity which promotes excellence, and the more you do, the better results you'll get. I mean, that's the bottom line. People kind of fall naturally into their sync of where they're going to find a level that's comfortable for them. But in debate, it's just a higher level of commitment. Obviously, some people work harder than others, and that's how the world works. And they will get out of it what they put into it. But I think we're constantly holding the vision of, we're pursuing excellence and we want to create that level. And so wherever you fall in that, you'll fall.
Okay. Any other thoughts on that, Hillary?
You
have families in your club that don't contribute as much, or maybe they can't because of the season of life they're in. What does that look like?
Yes, actually, we do have that. And we don't have a requirement that you must go to a tournament. We highly, highly encourage it. And that is part of what we say. Like, you will learn so much if you go to a tournament. We used to, because of where we were last year, we couldn't do this. But when we were in a previous location, we would have an in-house tournament. That was our club. And we did require students to go to that. Just so they kind of get the idea of what it's like to compete and to complete a speech and all of and that. And I think, like Jennifer said, you'll have varying levels of commitment, but we hold to a high standard, and this is kind of where we're at as a club. We have a family. I had a family last year, and just because of family circumstances, they really couldn't do a lot. But this year, circumstances have changed, and we just kind of encouraged them. We were there for them. We supported them and loved them. And this year, they're really jumping in full, they're jumping in with everything. And so sometimes it does take a little bit of time. Sometimes people need to get warmed up. And I don't want to ever say, oh, if you don't do this, then you're out, because I know that at certain points in life, you maybe can't be here, but you can be here, and we'll encourage you, especially if and the family is still excited about the activity, just couldn't participate as much. So.
Okay. Based on your experiences, what do you recommend on structure for a club that has a short meeting time? So for example, if you are in a school setting and you have an hour and a half or possibly 2 hours, how do you go about structuring that time, and how essential is it to include apologetics? Or how would you include apologetics?
We've never been bound by a really short time frame. So I've always just asked for a 4 to 5 hour stretch so that we could get it done. So I'm not as familiar with that. So I may have to defer that to Hillary.
Okay.
With the short time frame that I had this year, and it really was short, we couldn't do everything. We just realistically, and so we had an hour for speech, an hour for debate, and in hindsight, I would have just limited the 2 hours actually to speech rather than trying to fit in both. And because we could only do Lincoln Douglas, and because you can't do a policy debate in an hour, you can't even do the debate in an hour, let alone teach it. So in hindsight, I would have limited that to speech and kind of generated the interest in speech, and then next year had them move into debate as well. But I think you just, with limited time, you have to be very intentional in using your time well, and decide, like, do I really have enough time to do everything? If you have a group of novices, I don't think I'd throw them right off into debate, because it's huge. And so speech is a great way for them to warm up to the activity with limited time. And you may not, and if you're teaching speech, you can certainly teach about the apologetics category. If you don't have time for the apologetic category, I think it's super, super important that you stress from the very beginning that the reason we do this is not just for competition. It's not just so I can be a good speaker, but it again, it's that vision and focus of club is really, we're doing these. And I did that with our speech kids that I had this last year, and said, we're doing this we really are doing it for the Lord. And so the focus then shifts. It's not just, I'm going to be a good speaker, but this is why. This is the why behind what we do. So I think you have to kind of evaluate, who your students are, what they can handle, and of course, time limitations.
I know some clubs too, there's a difference between presenting information in club and then going home and acting on that versus doing some research at home and coming back to club and celebrating it. So one of the strategies for that is you can assign an apologetics topic. You can have your students read about that at home, and then you can come and together share some of the things that you've learned. So maybe it's not an extensive apologetics time where you're going to teach all of the nitty-gritty of each doctrine, but you are getting the kids in that idea of, let's examine those things that we believe. Let's really talk about them together. So that's a way that you can save time in club, but still embrace the activity.
Yeah.
So the next question is about speech. And the question reads, do you require all of your students to purchase the NCFCA student handbook, or it's called the competitor's handbook, for speech and or debate?
We did not. I used it as a reference myself, but I had taught speech for so many years that I really had my own material that I was quite comfortable with, and I used the speech curriculum as a supplement. I always had it out, or had it out early on, so parents could certainly use that if they wanted to use it as a supplement, or I recommend that they look at it, and they certainly can. I love also Heather Newman's Lasting Impact materials. So there's a lot of great resources out there, and there's a lot of different ways to teach speech. But the NCFCA curriculum is excellent. I think it just depends on if you're a seasoned speech coach, you have kind of your own thing, or if you want one right out of the box, you can turnkey use it. It's right there for you, ready to go.
That's great. Hillary, how about you?
No, I do not require them to purchase it, but we have it at club, and I do, again, like Jennifer said, I use it as supplement. I've kind of over the years of being in this have learned just from going to tournaments and going to a debate camp and all of that. So I've kind of put together, excuse me, kind of my own, just from all the things that I've learned over the years. But like Jennifer said, there certainly are fabulous, fabulous resources to use. And there are just a lot of resources out there. And so I'm always looking for good new books that I can read. And I'm crazy about debate theory. So I know I'm kind of a debate geek, but I study that. I go in online and I'll look because I just love it. So I've kind of pieced together, but I certainly would, the materials are excellent. And if you're just starting out, it's a great place to have something that you go, oh, I can refer to this on a weekly basis and that. So.
And I'll just speak to that as a parent as well. I mentioned that my background is math and science. And so coming into the speech and debate world, as a parent at home, I needed tools for me to be able to help my children in learning those skills. And so I used the curriculum at home as part of our daily routine, so that we could practice the skills and then apply those. And so for our new folks, if you're new to NCFCA, we did put a button there on the bottom of your screen that will take you directly to that curriculum. And there are 3 sets of curriculum. One is designed specifically for speech, one for value debate, and one for policy debate. So you can check those out. Oh, I love this question because it goes back to the heart of community. Do you use Icebreaker speech games in your club?
Yes.
Okay, what are your favorites? I'd love to hear which ones do you love?
Oh, all the time I use them because especially this past year, I had so many novice students that I needed them to break down that barrier of the fear of just I'm afraid to get up, and so the icebreakers, the games, the just getting to know you things like oh, we play so many silly and fun games. We have one that's like, oh, I don't even know how to describe it, so I won't, but one of the ways, and this is a great thing, is that for a new student, an icebreaker, like I mentioned in the beginning, we actually have them come into club in the beginning of the year with a box, and that represents them with some objects in it about things that they like to do. And so it's a wonderful way to get to know students, and it's not so intimidating because they actually have a visual aid. Like, here's my drumstick, I play the drums, or I love to ice skate, and somebody pulls an ice skate out of their box. And so for a brand new student, that's a wonderful way for them to introduce themselves with a prop. And then there's so many fun games. I just can't think of the top of my head, but I know Jennifer mentioned, and I think we're giving away the lasting impact games. I refer to that a lot, actually. That's my little dog-eared book, because there's lots and lots of fun games and for working on different skills in that book. So
very good. Jennifer, any favorites?
Well, I think every week giving students in speech the opportunity to hop up and do a little impromptu speech about who they are, what was their favorite summer vacation, if they could travel anywhere in the world, where would they want to go, if they could have their favorite meal, what would it be and why, so just those little activities every week. And so you're revealing more about the students with their speeches, and then they're learning to get on their feet and speak more articulately every week. So it goes pretty fast, but yet they're getting to know one another and increasing their skill level.
That's great. And for our new families, if you do choose to use the curriculum, there are lots of games throughout each of those that are based on the skill set that you're teaching in that given week. So we're going to shift over now to debate. And Emmy asks, does your club offer both styles of debate? And if so, do students get to choose which style they compete in or they participate in?
Go ahead, Jennifer.
So the years that we ran a club, which was 8 years, my husband and I, we offered team policy because that's what we knew and that's what we started with. And so my husband always said, if one of the parents wants to do Lincoln Douglas and has the bandwidth to do that, and we have enough students that we can have a breakout, have an adult overseeing that, then, he said, that's fine. We just never had anyone really step up to do that. So we were always more involved in team policy.
Mm-hmm. Great. Mm-hmm. Hillary, you offer both. So how did you get that second coach, and what does that look like?
We do offer both. So we have policy and Lincoln Douglas. And the second coach, really, we didn't for a while only offered policy. So it does require, you have to have so that's important to identify someone, like Jennifer said, if you have somebody who's really excited about it and wants to run the Lincoln Douglas. And I actually, back in the past, I was the person, I'm like, I'll do it because I love it. So I've been running Lincoln Douglas at our club for a number of years. We let students, I think I said it earlier, but we allow them to do Lincoln Douglas after they've done at least a year of policy. I do not accept brand new students to Lincoln Douglas unless they're an older student. Like, so if they're coming in and they're junior and senior in high school and they talk to me about it. So it's a requirement that they have to talk to me if they're going to just start out in Lincoln Douglas. But I probably only accept if they're brand new, I would accept them in Lincoln Douglas if they're junior or senior. So we do have, the great thing about debate is that so much of debate is the skills. So you're learning about argumentation and 4-point refutation and cross-examination and all of these things that you can actually do together as a club. So our TP and Lincoln Douglas will oftentimes meet together for a specific skill, and then the drill will be separate. So we'll move into our separate club times so that we can talk about content or the drill for like cross-examination. You're obviously going to look a little different cross-examination with Lincoln Douglas than you with TP, but we found that kind of builds community between the two clubs too, not just to separate them out, but to have them together for as much as possible. And then the other thing I do is that I make them come in when we do practice debates. I make them judge each other's debates, because oftentimes the policy debaters can find like you're just not being clear enough, for the Lincoln Douglas, and then Lincoln Douglas in turn can go back to the policy and go, you are getting way too much into the nitty gritty. You need to look big picture. So they offer, the skills they bring to each other are wonderful. So I love having to be able to have both. But it does depend. You have to have people, obviously, to be able to run, two clubs at the same, two types of debate at the same time.
So just what I heard you both say, I just want to reiterate this because this took me a while to get my brain around. You have a club coach or a club leader. That's the person who's doing the administrative part. But then you also have coaches that are teaching each individual. Is that your recommendation to folks?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
That idea of one person can't do it all.
One person can't do it at all. And because when you're running the club, you're responding, like somebody has a question about this and someone else needs to talk about this and have questions about the tournament. And if you're also in the midst of teaching everything, you can't minister to the families as the needs arise. I even find, like, cause I'm club director and Lincoln Douglas coach. So I am completely busy during our debate time, which means I don't have time really at that point to answer people's questions and kind of make sure, oh no, there's something wrong with the facility. The alarm's going off, but I'm in a round. And, so it does help just spread the teaching, spread all that out. So if you can.
Okay. Yeah. Jennifer?
I would say even within speech, you can have specialties. You can have someone that's your platform coach, your interp coach, and you usually have a different person that does apologetics. It seems like that person has a special calling, for that. And back to talking about apologetics, I really want to emphasize that we are talking about worldview within that apologetics. I think Hillary and I had talked a little bit about that. And I think as increasingly I'm beginning even more so to realize that worldview and emphasizing that every week and coaching to that is so important, because we have to realize that, our students are still solidifying their faith, where we are. So this is a discipleship process. And that is very foremost in our minds, I think, right now.
That's great. Nicole asks, in team policy team pairings, how do you handle an uneven number of students?
Do you mean partnerships for the year?
Well, let's start even just in club. Like if you were going to do a debate round and you had an uneven pairing, what would you do with that extra student?
Well, I think they're usually happy to go and watch another round, and that kind of happens when you have an odd number every week. There's an odd man out, somebody's partner's not there. They, you don't want them to be happening regularly, but typically they're fine going in and watching another round and learning from another team.
That's great. What about if it is competition season now and everybody's going to pair up for competition and you have an extra student? How would you work that out?
Well, that depends on the situation with students. You come into it. Sometimes you can last minute recruit. We've done that before, gone to people and said, hey, you weren't thinking about debate. Well, we need you. Would you reconsider to pair those up? Sometimes, you have to talk someone into maybe waiting a year or being an alternate for the year. Somebody's partner can't make it to a tournament. They can fill in. They can still come to club, participate, fill in for partners who aren't there. So, that's happened over the years, I think, a number of times. So students are kind of
see if she comes back here. Hillary, do you have any other thoughts you want to add to that?
Sure. Sometimes what we'll do too, if we have an odd man out, we've done 3 people teams. So that the students get up and they're practicing. And so maybe someone will get, we'll take one of the speeches in a policy round and we'll, kind of divide it up. The other thing that we've done, especially with our newer students, and we always have a partnership questionnaire in the beginning of the year to determine who we work with best? Who, what tournaments are you planning on going to? What's your commitment level? So we can match people up. But oftentimes with some of our newer students, they're just kind of getting their feet wet. We've done something, and it's really worked for our club, actually, as a revolving partnership. So what that's been is that oftentimes a student can go to a specific tournament, and there's another student that can go. And so we say, okay, you guys are going to be the partners at this. And we have some club cases. So they're not like, oh no, we have to come up with a new case. We have some club cases, and so they'll go, and it's actually a great exercise in learning how to work with many different people. So if you don't have a permanent partner for the year, you're still getting the debate skills. You're learning how to work with different people, and you also learn your strengths and weaknesses by working with different people. So my son, the first year he did policy, he had different tournaments at different tournaments, and it was a really great learning experience for him to learn how does he work, who does he work with well, and we find that works. Oftentimes, as the students get older, they solidify like their partners. There's so many ways to be creative with the odd man out, and never ever underestimate the value of listening and judging a debate. Oftentimes, you learn more from listening to a debate. I think the students then actually, being in a debate, although both are good, but there's so much benefit in a student actually give them a flow and say, we're going to do a stop go round, and I want you to chime in if you hear something you don't understand. And then they're sitting on the other side of the table, so they get that judge perspective on the debate, which is they don't often get as competitors. So it's a fabulous place for if you have that person and you're running debates. And sorry, I don't have anybody for you this week, but you're going to come and help me, and we're going to judge, and we're going to offer feedback. So that's a great learning activity as well.
Great. We have one last question here. Brenda asks, what are the various club roles parents can serve in debate that will help them develop in their ability to coach students? So how can you engage parents and prepare them to coach their own students at home?
Well, I think the number one thing is to get them off the back row on their phones. To actually move up, sit there, take notes, and pay attention. I mean, that is their role, is to support their student, to support the club. And if they're learning right along with their student and they're listening, paying attention, then that helps. So we put away our phones. It's probably the number one thing.
Great. Hillary?
Another thing that we do when we start running practice rounds, there's just not enough coaches. It's to do it, to offer feedback in all the rooms. And so I rely very, very heavily on my parents to listen to the debate and to give feedback to the students. And oftentimes, especially when they come in, they're like, I don't know how to judge debate. I'm like, perfect. I love you because I want to train my students to talk to just the average person off the street. And can the student communicate to you who don't know debate? So oftentimes I'm like, you're the perfect person to go in this room. But as they're listening to the debates, they really start understanding what's happening, especially if I'm able to get a parent, because we try to always have two parents per room if we can, to give feedback. And so I love to take the real new parents and sit them alongside me. And as we do a go around, I say, okay, so, and I was talking to the students, they start hearing, I need to be looking for that. And so that's a great training opportunity for parents to learn about debate. That's kind of how I got into it, was just sitting in the back of the room and listening and going, and I ask questions as a parent, like, what did that counter plan? Can you do that? And yeah, you could do that. So that's a great thing to do. I think Jennifer's so right. Parents, don't be on your phones, stay in the room, and definitely help out as and listening to the debates. I always tell the parents too, you have invaluable information for these students because you have a wealth of experience and a breadth that the students just do not have. They're young. They're 15, 16, 17 years old, and we've lived a lot longer. So we have a whole lot to offer to them. And I think it's getting the parents outside of this, getting outside of your comfort zone of sitting in the back and, I actually know a lot about energy. I can help.
Right.
And one more thing, my husband used to always tell parents, when your student's writing their case, their 1AC, make them give it to you without the evidence. Listen to it. Can they make the case logically? Does this make sense without the experts saying it? And realize, like Hillary said, that parents have so much to offer just because you're an adult. And these students are learning from you. You're not just learning from them. You are giving your wisdom and sharing what you know about life and policy and experience in the world. And parents are invaluable in the process, in the room of debate where it's happening, to say, it doesn't work that way, so listen up.
Well, thank you both so much for being here today. We appreciate your insights. Thank you to our production manager, Natalia Rosa, and our gracious host, the University of Northwestern at St. Paul, Minnesota. And to our listening audience, thank you for joining us. If you have just 1 minute before you leave, write down your most important thought that you're going to take away from this session in our chat box. And we look forward to seeing you again in the rest of the sessions. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.